Hi, I'm Alex and this is a new weekly recap of all things new happening with free Libre tools for creative professionals and engineers. It's been a relatively quiet week, except of course for major new releases of Audacity and BlenderBIM. Let's dive into new stuff. GIMP added support for 16 and 32-bit per channel DDS files in GIMP, which should make quite a few game designers happy. This patch is already in the main development branch, so it will be part of the next release. Cassidy Grogan submitted the patch that updates the existing DICOM files here to use the GDCM library. DICOM files are commonly used to store CT, MRI, X-ray and ultrasound scans. The plugin that GIMP currently has is all custom code, written a long time ago, so the plugin would fail to open many files created more recently. This patch by Cassidy fixes that, as you can see from the file that another user reported as unsupported. The switch to the GDCM library for loading DICOM files is great, however, you will notice that the rendering doesn't look right, especially when compared to the way the same file is rendered in specialized software. You can fix that with curves, but that's not really how it's supposed to work. Medical scans are used in life and death situations, so you don't want your software to do funky stuff with them. I would really love to report that, but alas, GNOME's GitLab doesn't let me in after recovering the password, so I guess I will have to find a different way to pass the word. The new version of BlenderBIM comes with support for Blender 4.0. They also extended MEP tools to create bands for circular and rectangular profiles, which should really come in handy. They also added support for creating tabular data that conforms to COBie standards, which are used for exchanging data about assets and equipment. More work has been done on user interface improvements, and there are beginnings of a new material and style system. Currently you can add and edit shading and rendering styles and associate and unassociate styles to materials. The idea is to eventually completely override the default Blender Materials tab. This version of Audacity comes with several new features. The first one is Musical Time View. The basics of that feature were developed by a Google SpectMorph code student in 2022. Then the beta version of that feature was released this April in 3.3 and now it's finally 100% functional. Open Audacity. Click here and choose Beats and Measures. Click here to select Bar Beat. Then click here to select Snapping Unit, let's say 1/8 of a bar. Now when you record new material or import a file, you see a musical time grid on the timeline. And when you drag the clip around, it should be snapping to musical units. There is a bug here though. If you select 1/8, it will only snap to 1/4, and if you select 1/4, it will only snap to half a bar. The other new feature is easy stretching of audio clips. You just hover the clip bar, press the Alt key and start dragging left or right. It works very well, but I think I'd need to spend some more time with this to see if the claim about superior stretching quality is valid. There's some fun trivia here. The time and pitch library that Audacity uses for that originally comes from StaffPad, which is another software project now owned by Muse Group. It's a proprietary application for writing score on tablets. Early on, when Audacity was acquired, there were some concerns that Muse Group would hide changes from the community, but as you can see, they are actually doing the exact opposite. But that's not even all the trivia. The time and pitch library uses an open source fast Fourier transformations called PFT. Yes, PFT. If you look at its copyrights, one of the developers is Julien Pommier, who is principal developer at Modart, creators of the famous virtual instrument called Piano Tech. Now, back to audio stretching. One interesting thing about the implementation is that Audacity keeps track of the project tempo, and when you change that tempo, audio clips get automatically stretched to match the new tempo and stay synced to the beat. You can see it here in the clip bar. Finally, the export audio dialog has been updated. It's cleaner and you can do custom channel mappings. I'm not entirely certain that this is sufficient for encoding 5.1 because I have virtually no experience mixing and mastering for film, but it's here and you can use it. Unfortunately, Audacity still looks quite horrible on high dpi displays. This is however not going to be a problem for the Qt port. Everything looks just right there, except it's nowhere ready for even basic use, so I would say expect at least 1 or 2 more versions of Audacity 3 before we get to Audacity 4, and Qt-based version with full user experience and user interface revamp. There is a new version of SpectMorph available. This is a virtual instrument that allows morphing one instrument to another and create a kind of a hybrid sound. So when you have two equal instruments like clarinet and clarinet, it sounds like, well, clarinet. Well, when you change stars B to viola, which is also a new instrument, you get this. Then there's morphing, so to the left the preference is for clarinet, and to the right the preference is for viola. There are also various output settings: the unison effect, ADSR, filter, portamento, and vibrato. And yeah, it might sound a little weird, but remember, with sufficient reverberation, anything, and I mean anything, can become a pad. As usual, thanks for watching and thanks to all my Patreon supporters. See you soon.